Welcome to another edition of Marketing Unleashed. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. And as always, as we're going along today, we want to make the show all about you. So make sure you ask your questions down below. We'll try to bring those up on screen as we get going today. And also, do us a favor and sprinkle the love across the interwebs. And that helps other people know about the show. And in fact, if you're like, oh my gosh, Kara is amazing. I want my friends to know about this. Feel free to mention them down below because we're gonna be talking about some really cool stuff today. Mention them, call them in, even if they can't make the live, let them know about the replay. But we appreciate you. Make sure you ask your questions. Alisa, so good for you to be here today. I'm surprised you. I mean, I was like, is she gonna show up? But I'm glad she did. So.
Yeah. You never know, really. Right?
Exactly.
I'm happy to be here and happy to have Kara back on.
I know. She is such a rock star, and we're going to talk all about, and this is almost based on one of her pillar pieces of content she had that's really good. Yeah. So we'll drop that into the links down below because it was really good. And we're talking about the mindset shifts. I'm going to screw that up and probably curse on the show, but to elevate your Pinterest marketing. So this is going to be mindset. What kind of mindset do you have on Pinterest, Lisa? What were you saying?
Well, no, what I'm saying is this is a simple mindset shift to elevate your Pinterest marketing and more. It's not just about Pinterest today. Yeah.
That's right. It's not. So we've got some folks coming in we've got people from France coming in. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. Lisa is amazing. I shouldn't even put that on screen.
You're very sweet. I'll send you a check in a bit.
That's right. In Barcelona, we have some people from Barcelona, so that's really cool. So thank you. Yvonne is here, says hi all. So people from Utah. We've got all sorts of people tuning in today. So this is going to be a great show. But as always, we have some special things that we like to let you guys know about. We got some people from Texas. Very, very cool. But we have this. So talk about this TW Pinterest Toolkit, Alisa. What is this all about?
So this is our Pinterest templates that we create inside of Canva that are special for every month. So March features trends from the Pinterest Predicts. It features what people are searching for right now. Also some kind of seasonal suggestions. So grab that for free. And even better, you can find them in the Tail and Create product.
That's
so
what's
it's even
so cool.
faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you
cool.
want to get those, if you're listening, it's bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit, all lowercase, all smashed together. So why don't you introduce our guest that we've had on the show before, and she's a Pinterest rock star, and we always enjoy talking with Kara. So give us the lowdown if people do not know who she is.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled to. So Kara is the creator of the Pin Power Method, which already intriguing right there. She has a free training of how to 3x your traffic from Pinterest without adding more marketing to your to-do list, which sounds good to me. You can find that at Kara Chase, that's CARACHACE.com/free. And I just want to say that Kara had this idea for this podcast, and then she sent me this blog post that she said was getting, a lot of people get excited about it, and she gets lots of feedback about it. And I was like, oh, well, I can see why. So let's kind of frame our whole discussion around this blog post. It's a kind of a story, kind of a journey to help us get more out of our content, no matter where we are.
So this whole thing that we're talking about today is talking about, a lot of it is talking about, the mindset behind, we're going to even drop not just Pinterest, we're going to talk about Instagram and some other things. But, why did you write this article, Kara, first of all? What you mean, most of the time you have a reason for, you just don't throw something up there, but I know you had some strategy behind it. Were you getting a lot of questions about this kind of thing, or why did you, it's a pretty long article. Why did you write it?
I wrote it because so many of us, when we are trying to figure out how to market our businesses, we get really awkward. So, and I'm included, I can sometimes get into that as well, where you start thinking about the features and benefits of whatever it is you're trying to sell, and you're trying to check the boxes, and you completely forget about who your customer is and how you're helping them. So this blog that I wrote, originally it was for New Year's resolutions. because it's about how to help your audience and get into their mindset. Mm-hmm. But as we know, anytime is a good time to plan something new or start a project, or any random Tuesday where you're like, I'm going to try that keto thing. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be January 1st. So it really was a way to take my readers on this journey of like, here's how to really think about your audience and the different mindsets they're on when they're on different social media platforms. And even though I now am totally niched into Pinterest, and I have been since 2017, I actually started in general social media marketing, doing all the platforms. So even though I'm niched into Pinterest, I do have that wider perspective of general social media marketing to draw on.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So this I'm going to ask this question. I think I know the answer, but I always like to ask anyway. So why do we even need to know who our audience is? But like, shouldn't we want to, my services are for everybody. So, why? Okay. Talk about that a little bit.
So, it's one of those, if you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to no one. Mm-hmm. Not to be cheesy with the quotes and whatever, but it's like, you can't be a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades. And you really have to understand where you're meeting your audience in their buying or consideration journey and what's going on in their head, to be able to have them trust you and want to spend money with you. So saying my product is for everyone, I mean, maybe it is, but you have to understand how to market more specifically based on the platform you're on or what you're selling when. And we'll get into that, I know, as we talk about this a little more. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And so Pat even agrees with you. She goes, you can't be all things to all people. And, there's another quote everybody says is like, the riches are in the niches. So I want to know from you guys watching, do you know who your audience is? And if you do, like, drop it in. I want to see how specific you guys are, because we're going to talk about that a lot during the show today. So I want to know what your audience is. I mean, that you know of. So drop it in the comments down below, whatever platform you're watching on. So I know, Alicia, you had a question.
And I think, well, I mean, if we think about, okay, maybe your product or service could be useful for everyone. That may be true, but the way you speak to each use of it is going to be different. And I'm really glad, especially that you broke it down to, all right, maybe it's the same person, but you're going to speak to them differently on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest because that shift. And I feel like that's where the real aha moments are going to come from.
Absolutely. And that, the feedback that I get on this blog, typically it's from my email list. I send this out to my email list a couple times a year because I get so many responses where people write me back. I created this avatar named Mary and walk through like all these little pieces of her life and how she's using different social media platforms. And I always get responses that are like, oh my gosh, that's me. Or holy cow, that was so helpful in understanding that you can't just auto post the same thing everywhere. Right. Yeah. So if you want me to go through this little example so everybody can benefit, I'd love to.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I think we start with talking about who Mary is.
Yeah. So Mary is a 45-year-old mom of 2 teenagers. She's a wife. She's a full-time accountant with a side hustle of watercolor cards that she sells on Etsy. It fulfills a creative outlet for her. She's pretty healthy, but she wants to lose weight and she wants to have more energy because 2 teenagers. So Mary has a full of busy life, and like everyone, she spends some time each day scrolling through different feeds on the different apps and platforms that she's on. So even though she might not realize it, she's actually in a totally different mindset and headspace when she's on different social media platforms. And for the sake of this example, I lump in Pinterest with social media, even though we know it's not, right?
Fair enough, yeah. I have a question before we go too far into Mary. Did you base Mary on someone you know, like a customer or a friend, or did you just make her up?
I just made her up based on like It really was thinking about all the different facets of somebody's life and how people are not one-dimensional. People don't have one goal. People don't have one thing that they're thinking about all day. Everybody has a very multifaceted life that are, it's constantly vying for your attention in your brain space. So it was totally made up and just pulling out some of these different things that are part of anyone's life.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when people think about where do I start? To me anyway, it's easiest to start with my ideal customer. So think about the person that I have served the best, the person who's happiest with my services or product, and kind of build backward from there so I can replicate that experience. And I bet that's probably what you did, kind of subconsciously or maybe consciously too, just to try to build more customers like that.
Well, and one of the things that's helpful, this kind of totally overlays with how I create a Pinterest board for clients, as we start with their ideal customer. And then we think about all the other complementary industries or subjects or, needs and things they're looking for that can overlap with what they're interested in. So it's kind of all part of that Venn diagram of, you've got your ideal customer avatar, but what else are they also interested in that is going to draw them in?
So we've got some great comments from people. How much more? There's some more you want to talk about Mary though, don't you? What about Mary?
That's who Mary, that's
what I did there.
I caught that. Good. So, yes, that's who she is. Okay. But the next step is thinking about how she uses different platforms differently throughout the day.
Well, let's bring in some comments because I wanted to get your thoughts on some of this because Stephanie Perry, she goes, health and wellness is hers. And she goes, I need to niche down more. And there's other ones like Laura here, our friend Laura, she goes, engage women looking to express their personality with accessories to style the dress and make it their dress. So, she's got it nailed in. And then we have some other ones who are like Sandy goes paper crafters. So does Sandy need to drill down farther and like it's a 40, age 40-year-old mom of twin? You went like super niche and some other people went super specific. How specific do we need to go when we start doing this?
A great place to start with that is with some like keyword or SEO research, actually. So you need to think about, okay, so paper crafters, what problem are you solving? How are you helping your audience? What do they want to feel? What do they want to accomplish? What are they going to get out of whatever it is that you're helping them with? And then, paper crafters is actually pretty niche. It's not like arts and crafts, but that's where you need to dig into keyword research, whether it's on Pinterest or Google or any number of, hashtag research on Instagram and see what people are talking about and go from there.
So we have one more I want to do because people love this. So Melissa says it's parents of toddlers. And that's like, if you just think of Pinterest, that's a big chunk, and so so let's kind of brainstorm some ideas on how to maybe niche down or some examples for somebody who, parents of toddlers. Let's niche down a little bit more. So what would you say on that one?
I would say pretty much the same thing. Like, what's the problem you're solving? How are you helping them improve their life, learn something new, create something better for their day-to-day experience? So parents of toddlers, okay, that's your ideal audience, but is it because their toddler is a picky eater, or they're having trouble sleeping, or maybe they need to understand, they need some better tools as parents for how to deal with a toddler. So there's all sorts of different directions you could go with that kind of broad category, which really comes back to, well, what are you marketing? And then thinking about, instead of here's my features and benefits, thinking about how do I make this person's life better?
And I think your Mary example is so good because we feel like we know Mary. We understand her motivations and even a little maybe about her personality, even if we have to kind of fill those in for them because it's not a real person. Creating someone that we can identify with as a human makes it so much easier to speak to them like a human. Like if
Yes.
we are speaking to an avatar, we sound like robots. But if we're speaking to someone we understand as a friend, we sound like a human, and it's so much more relatable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I wrote this.
So
Yeah,
I have a
it's
question
great.
for you, Kara. So when you first started your business to like now, has that avatar changed? I mean, has it like, because I know as I get older, I know that my audience changes as well a little bit. So have you noticed, has it changed much since when you first started your business?
I would say when I first started my business, again, it was all digital marketing. So it was websites, social media, anything. And it was very broad because it was not only online entrepreneurs, but it was brick and mortar. It was just every business is my client, right?
Right.
And I think when you first start your business, you get stuck with that because you just want to get paid. You just want to know that you're going to be able to make this work. So you end up casting that broad net. So I niched into Pinterest, and that was still pretty much anybody who has a website, whether they're brick and mortar or not. And now it's niched even further into just online entrepreneurs. I don't really provide any coaching or training for brick and mortar, although there's a fantastic strategy for Pinterest and brick and mortar. That's not what I do. So yeah, it's kind of funneled down a little bit and a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you mentioned SEO as a way to help people when they're starting to kind of figure out their avatar or who their person is. So do you recommend do you do that for each platform? So like, do you start with Pinterest and say, okay, this is how Mary is using Pinterest. This is how Mary is using Instagram. This is how Mary is using Facebook. Do you go through all those as kind of different buckets, or is it just, this is Mary and she uses all this stuff?
No, it's a really good point. So just like we talked about the funnel of niching, I also do that with my research as far as I usually start with Google, just to get a general idea. But if I'm not going to use LinkedIn as a business owner or marketer, I'm not going to go to LinkedIn and find out what people are talking about. So obviously it's important to focus on the platforms you intend to use to market your business. But yes, Pinterest, they went back and forth with hashtags for years. We now know it's not a thing. Let's not even go there, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's a little make us crazy. But obviously Instagram does. So, what people are searching for and how they're searching on Instagram is going to be completely different than how they are searching on Pinterest. So yes, you do have to, or you should do that kind of research for each platform that you plan on using to market your business. So it doesn't mean you have to search on every single platform out there, but I'd start with Google and then go down from there.
Good old Google. Okay. So where your article starts to get really interesting is, okay, we've come to know Mary a little bit. We understand what she's interested in, but then you talk about how she uses each of the social platforms. And I want to really focus on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, Pinterest to talk about the differences. Same person, different. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Different headspace, all of it.
Yes.
So at this point, Facebook and Instagram, you can kind of marry up the two as very similar because a lot of people are accessing mostly mobile first now. So when she's on Facebook or Instagram, she's usually taking a break at work. So she's sipping on a third cup of coffee, she's looking at her friends' photos, or she's in the school's Facebook group or the community free and trade group, seeing if she can, find something for free. She's not particularly engaged with her news feed. She's a little checked out. Maybe she's sucked into an ad for magnetic eyelashes because she wants to save some time in the morning. She's on Facebook and Instagram several times a day when she's waiting for the next client meeting. She's eating lunch at her desk. And particularly for Instagram, she's there for some eye candy because she has that watercolor cards business that she's selling on Etsy. And she knows Instagram is all about that perfection filter, but she's okay with it because she's looking for scenery to get inspired for her next card series. She's probably looking at her Instagram feed with one eye as she's watching something on Netflix, and she doesn't have the sound on. So all of the stories and lives and everything else don't particularly resonate with her unless there's captions, because she's sitting with her husband or her kids watching TV at the same time, or she's at work and doesn't want to disturb her coworkers.
Awesome. So I want to, when you were talking about this and you said a couple of things that I really got me thinking. So it's not just when you are getting this specific about your avatar, you're not just saying, oh, she's on Pinterest, I'm going to just, concentrate there. It also kind of tells you what type of content to create on that platform, because you mentioned a couple different times, it's like she's working, she's looking at it kind of with one eye and all this kind of stuff. So, when I hear that, I was like, okay, it's got to, whatever thing I do on Pinterest, I've got to catch your eye like immediately. It's got to pop off the feed.
Right.
And also you were saying like she's seeing, ads on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, then I probably need to focus maybe a little bit on creating great ads that convert, because that's what's drawing her in. I mean, that's what I think the value is. What you have done here is not just, okay, she's on Pinterest. It's like, okay, right, what kind of content on Pinterest is going to resonate with her? And that gives you so much direction as you create content, because, a lot of people have this spaghetti, they throw whatever at the wall and whatever sticks. Okay, that worked this time. But when you focus like this, oh my gosh, you can really like hone in on the content. Okay, I've got to make something that catches their eye in 3 seconds. Well, that gives me a laundry list of things that I need to really focus on. So I thought that really popped me.
Thank you. Yeah. And that was the intention, was let's get out of this mode of checking a box with marketing, right? We're all busy. We're all trying to grow our businesses. Let's not, okay, I have time to create one graphic and put it out everywhere and list out the features and benefits, maybe put some ad dollars behind it, and let's hope for the best. That is such a waste of time, right? But it feels like we're stuck in this to-do list as marketing our businesses, and just trying to do all the things. And we lose sight of this, what's really going to resonate with my customer, and how do I add value that's interesting and is going to connect with her. I'd so much rather do one really good piece of content or ad or post on one platform that really gets into that than trying to spread myself too thin.
So that I want to ask our audience members, because like Pat says, yes, I don't get to watch IG stories and listen to them until late at night, but I will swipe through my IG feed when I have a minute or two to look. So, she's, she knows what she likes. And so I want you guys to drop down below. If you know what content really resonates with your audience, let us know. Is it like, Pat says, well, I don't listen to the things in the feed, but I kind of swipe through my post. So do you know what your audience is consuming? If you do, let us know in the comments, because I think that would be really insightful for other people who are watching and reading as well.
Yeah, and I think if you're out there and you're thinking, oh, this is really cool, this is really great, but I don't really know how to apply that, don't worry. We have kind of a formula. We know we love formulas.
That's right.
Marketing.
That's right.
So we're gonna share that as well. So Kara, if you have a great piece of content, which you know will work on all platforms, do you share it to them all?
Potentially, but I would do it differently.
Right.
It goes without. Yeah. So number one, you have to know what best practices are for wherever you're going to post your content. So knowing that on Pinterest, you've got to do a 2-to-3 ratio vertical pin, and all the best practices that go along with Pinterest graphics. Knowing on, Instagram, do you want something that takes up a little more of the feed, or do you want a square? Like you have to know the basics of how to post in the best way, how to use keywords, how to catch somebody's eye, and how to have really good, strong calls to action. So yes, you could potentially post the same piece of content, for instance, of a new blog, but you're going to want to package it differently to work for, in the best way for each platform that you put it on.
Right. Okay. So thinking about this as a formula, and we want you to be thinking about your content out there. If you have a blog post or a product, because we want to take a couple of those and try to put them into the formula for you, so we can really put this thing to work. So let's think about if we have. Okay, we have a product. Let's say it's magnetic eyelashes, because you brought that one up. How would you frame that for Facebook or Instagram versus how you would show that on Pinterest?
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram, they tend to be a more instant user experience. So if somebody is in the right headspace of they've already done the research, they've heard about this product or whatever it is, and they happen to see the right ad scroll by, maybe their phone picked up on something they were talking about, or they looked on Amazon and all of a sudden they start
or
seeing,
after this live, we're all going to see that on our phones.
That's right.
Exactly, right. So it's one of those immediate, like, I'm pretty much ready to buy. That's the experience that I have and what I know about Facebook and Instagram paid advertising. When you're talking about
organic,
I can't really speak to paid versus organic on Facebook and Instagram because it's not my niche anymore. So I would not want to talk out of turn. I just know that it's a different point on the buying journey than what you would experience with Pinterest.
Yeah, I think that it would be very similar for organic. It's just the chances of you seeing it are lesser, right? So,
right.
But I think you hit that mindset right away. And I noticed this buying pattern with myself, is that it will be something on Facebook or usually Instagram that finally puts me over the edge, even though I was already thinking about it. So I really do think organic or ad, that's kind of the mindset you're going to be working with.
Right. And not to go completely down a rabbit hole, but this is where all the remarketing and knowing how to do all of that effectively for your business comes in as well. Yeah. So with Pinterest, it's a totally different point on the buying journey. So when Mary is looking at magnetic eyelashes on Pinterest, probably has something to do with she wants to feel more put together, but make it easy and save time. And whether it's they are saving the pin to a shopping list board for later, or you have some great article on like, here's my 5-minute makeup routine in the morning, whatever it is, when she's on Pinterest, she is looking for information to plan whatever it is she wants to do, whether that's buying a product or doing something new or trying something out. So it's not always, it can be that immediate buying decision, but it typically is a different mindset of their planning and researching when they're on Pinterest.
So I wanted to bring up some stuff from our audience because we asked them, to like, if, what are people consuming for them from their audience? And, Macy says this, and I thought this was great. She goes, my audience is engaged most with photos with the actual employees doing jobs or interacting with our services, the behind the scenes stuff. So she knows that stuff works well for her on that platform. And this is another one from April. She goes, I have been surprised by the engagement on short video of me at work with my yarn craft centered Instagram. So she's finding out, April is, what works on that platform. So I think it's really cool what people are saying here. We also have a question because, and this be a good one because I know this is this is from YouTube, Bare Necessities. They go, what would you recommend for real estate? So first of all, you have to kind of niche down on that, but what would you say they need to find out, Kara?
I would say any really good real estate agent is going to be able to tap in how life is going to feel and how a community is going to feel for someone who is buying a home that is listed. So going beyond 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 square feet, all of the features and benefits. Here are the local favorite coffee shops that are walking distance and why people love them. Here's, the walkability score is a pretty easy one to put in there. Whatever is going to give the potential buyer of that real estate a feeling for what their life is going to look like on a day-to-day basis. Having coffee outside on your deck while you see wildlife or, whatever it is. It's so much more than here's the listing numbers and stats. So really getting into, again, the feeling of what your audience wants to accomplish.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So we teased this formula, but before we do that, I want to make sure that everybody knows about, we talked earlier about the awesome toolkit that you guys can get at bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. That's the new templates that Tailwind has put together. They're amazing. You need to go check them out. But we also have this, the pin formula. So the bit.ly/TW pin formula. What is that all about, Elisa?
So if you didn't look at the link, I can tell you, it is the magic formula for turning one piece of content into several different pins that can appeal to different audiences and with different searches. So it's taking your content, adding a context, and coming up with an idea. And that's kind of the formula that we want to take for Instagram and Facebook and kind of contrast that with Pinterest as well. But you can have it for Pinterest right there.
Awesome.
Grab it.
Yeah, right there.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to say one thing because Jen and April had such great comments about what's working for them. And this speaks to this formula we're going to get into. If you post something on a particular platform that you realize is resonating and doing really well, think about how to make that work in the best way for another platform. So for example, behind the scenes, maybe you could write a great blog post about behind the scenes of your business and your brand and your values. And why people love working with you, and that's posted on Pinterest. If you have your short video, we all know, Pinterest loves video right now. Right. How could you send that to a free lead magnet for people from Pinterest to whatever you're doing with your yarn craft business? So if you know something is good with people, how do you expand that to other platforms? Yeah,
that's great. So let's break down this formula because I really want to talk about this. Yeah. So who's going to take this one, the formula? Because I don't do math.
There's no math required. Okay. All right, I'll take the first one.
Okay.
I'll take the first one, and then we can try using it on somebody's actual example. Okay.
Awesome.
So let's say we have a product or service, and we want to give people a reason to trust us. Okay. So now we have our content, we have the purpose we're gonna put behind this post. That's going to go to Facebook and Instagram. So it could be, all right, we have a product, we have a reason to trust us. So we might have user-generated content, right? We might have a testimonial, we might have a video, we might have a comment from somebody about using our product. We might have behind the scenes we can share with them, or we might have education on how to use the product or how the product will solve a certain problem. That is really great for Instagram or Facebook.
I would agree, particularly in terms of testimonials. People love seeing that. It's easy to get your head around and click through, depending on if it's an ad or not or whatever. Whereas on Pinterest, having a pin with a testimonial on it is not going to have the same impact that it would on Facebook and Instagram, just like quotes, right? If we all love inspirational quotes, sarcastic quotes, coffee quotes, whatever it is. And they do really well on Facebook and Instagram. What happens on Pinterest is they'll get saved a lot, but it doesn't lead to traffic to your website because people just want to save them. It's not the same customer journey. So that's a really great example.
Cool. I just want to share that one of the great tools that we have used at Tailwind to get more of these video testimonials is called Video Ask. And they are not sponsoring this podcast yet.
They should.
They definitely should. But it's really easy. You just send someone a link via email asking them for their their feedback on something. They don't have to download a thing. They just take a video with their phone, send it to you, and then you can reply to them. You can use the video. It builds in so that you can gather the permissions that you want. The quality of the video, I don't know how they make it so good for everyone, but they're really great videos and easy to use and reuse.
So are you okay? Just want to make sure you're
right. Yeah, I'm okay. My little dog, he's blind and confused, and he's running into things.
Oh, okay. Well, so one of the things when you guys were talking about this, about what this service that actually you can ask for testimonials, is I think a lot of people, and I know people who are watching this and commenting, they don't go for the ask, and you don't have to do an ask that's like spammy or something, but I know you all have people who go, oh, I loved your product. I know Sally Howell's watching right now from the UK, and she makes incredible jewelry. And I know people say, I love your jewelry. It's awesome. It's okay to go, hey, do you mind leaving me a review? Or can you write me something I could put on your blog? Thank you so much. I think that if we would do that more, you would have these testimonials, you would have all this stuff that you could use and repurpose, but we're scared to ask that. So I think doing that is part of this formula you can use too in kind of putting everything together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll go beyond that too. Like asking them, can you write something for me, is kind of a lot to ask. But if you say, could you write something for me that answers the question, how did this product make you feel? That's so much easier. Like give them a prompt and make it easier for them to give you that feedback.
That's gold. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Carrie goes, I love video asks. They are fun to create. And a lot of more people answered since they never have done one before. So that's the great testimonial there.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Do you want me to take the next one?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, would you?
Okay. So if you have a product or a service and there's some entertainment value there, again, that's going to be mostly Facebook or Instagram, but potentially that could, too many P's here, that could go on Pinterest as well. Especially because they now really like video and story pins. So if you have something entertaining, how many people have been absolutely mesmerized by the cooking videos where it's like from the top down and you see them add the ingredients, or knitting or creating anything, or watercolors, whatever it is. If you have something that is going to stop the scroll and people are going to watch it for, even a few seconds, that potentially could be used everywhere. But you really have to package it in the right way for Pinterest. It's probably easier to share that kind of stuff on Facebook and Instagram, would be my gut feeling there.
Yeah, and I think that it's actually getting a little easier on Pinterest because of all the TikTok stuff that's coming over there. Because I think it's also training people that, I can have entertaining video on Pinterest, and people are clicking on it, especially like you mentioned, Kara, with stories. So I think anything on this formula we're talking about, if you can figure a way to, edutainment, like educate and entertain at the same time. And it's a hard line. It's hard to do. And it's a muscle that you have to keep working at so it gets better and better. But if you can do that and think of some fun ways, and some of those TikTok videos are just goofy. They just are, but they work. And so it's okay to be a little bit goofy on some of these videos that I think that you might be surprised on how well they do.
Yeah, and I know I've shared before, but when we looked at the pins that went out in January that had over 1,000 saves just in the month of January alone, we found 30% of those were video pins. And what they had in common is that they actually taught something. So they were pretty good video quality, but they also were like a how-to, a step-by-step. And there were a lot of TikToks. So I'm so far not seeing a lot of like dance challenge videos on TikTok. That might not be the right place to put your TikToks on Pinterest. But the ones that are useful and teach, but in a really like interesting way, that's what we're seeing. Yeah.
Well, and the education piece ties right into where people are on their Pinterest journey with planning and gathering information and doing research. So that's, I think, why that works so well, for sure.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, you want to take the next one?
No, you can't. I'll let you.
Okay.
Trying to sync up some stuff. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if we have a product or service, right, it could be the same product or service we've been talking about all along here in these formulas. So we have the product or service. we pair it with a mindset, a context, a season, or an event. And that's what you'll find in that Pinterest resource, that Pinterest formula link, which is the bit.ly/TW pin formula. That, no surprise, makes a great Pinterest piece of content. Like possibly Facebook and IG, but definitely, yeah.
And again, I think it goes back to this mindset of where are they on the buying journey, and then matching that with essentially this formula is talking about different content pillars for whatever it is you're creating. So a content pillar could be that user-generated content, behind the scenes type stuff about your business, like getting to know you stuff. A content pillar could be entertainment value. What makes you unique, fun, your personality, your value, all that kind of stuff. Then the next one is education. Are you teaching something that matches with a season or an evergreen life moment, or learning something new? So these are kind of the different layers that you can start thinking about how to create almost your entire content marketing plan. Like, what are the content pillars? Where are they at on their buying journey? And how do I make that work for each platform?
Awesome. So since we've been talking about user-generated content a little bit, there's a great question here by Bobby, and she goes, would you suggest repurposing Reels or TikToks on Pinterest? We kind of mentioned the pans and hands kind of ones, but...
Yeah, I love repurposing, because the entire reason that I niched into Pinterest was to work smarter, not harder. And repurposing is part of that. So you can repurpose it as long as it, is done well for the platform. Like, you're using keywords. If it's a video, you're using some video tags on Pinterest. The one thing that I've run into, which is worth mentioning, is I have seen people that take really great popular TikTok videos and post them as their content on Pinterest. So there's almost like a, hey, reminder, that's stealing. Don't do that. Yeah. So if it's your content and you can repurpose it, 150% do that to save yourself time, for sure.
Yeah. And don't forget to link it to an appropriate page on your website too, right? Not your home page, but to the product page or the informational page. Yeah, you don't want to waste that link.
Yeah.
No.
I want to bring this up because this is another good example of stuff we've been talking about. Yvonne says this. She goes, customers will post public reviews on our page, and we use them with the quote without their name, along with the bracelet purchase, and quote over and add to story. So that's a great idea too. So I love all these ideas about user-generated content. People love to see their quotes, their pictures, all that kind of stuff on your posts, and I just think that's a genius way to do that. And especially when like Kara's been talking about all this time, about your avatar and who your audience really is on whatever platform you're on.
Yeah. A funny story about user-generated content. Sure. So before I started my business, I was the social media manager for Megadeth and Dave Mustaine. And wow. I started Instagram for the band and for Dave Mustaine, and I was able to convince him to do it because of explaining user-generated content from fans, because he thought he was going to have to post 15 selfies a day, like his teenage daughter. And he was like, no, user-generated content. And that was what was able to convince him to create an Instagram account way back when.
That's cool. That's really cool. So do we have one more formula, or is that all of them?
Yeah, there's the last one. I'll let Kara take that one.
Okay, go.
Sure. So again, product or service, and it could be the same thing. Really illustrating how it helps you try something new is going to pretty solidly be in Pinterest territory. Again, because of where they're at on that buying journey. So maybe Mary isn't ready to buy her magnetic eyelashes. All she knows is that she's tired of messing around with mascara. She needs to look put together real quick in the morning. And so whatever, verbiage you have about your product, maybe you have a blog post or two, or, landing page, whatever it is. And if you create that pin with, here's how to save 10 minutes in the morning, or here's how to never wear mascara again. Like, you don't have to wear mascara ever again that is when she is discovering and researching how she's going to solve her problem. And that's where it's meeting her.
I'm so going to be served ads for magnetic eyeliners after this show. You know it's going to happen. It's just going to be. So let's talk about that, because so we've done the formula. So, and let's kind of focus on Pinterest. So how do we, I think a lot of us just, I'm linking to my blog post. I made a pretty pin, but how do we motivate people to actually take action on Pinterest?
One of the best things you can do is having a really clear call to action on the pin graphic itself. Mm-hmm. So really what's kind of become the standard for keywords with titles and descriptions, they're not going to see the descriptions unless they do a close-up on the pin typically. Yes, it is going to help it get seeded into the right feeds with the right keywords, but initially, people are going to see like the first few characters of the title, but really what they're looking at is the graphic. It's a visual search engine. So one of the gold nuggets that I gave in my training specific to e-commerce was having on the pin, hey, if you're still shopping, save this pin to your shopping list board. Mm. And that does two things. One, it gives them a spoon-fed, here's something to do. Two, they're going to think, oh, I don't have a shopping list board. I should have a shopping list board. I'm going to create one right now.
That. Right. I think I need one now. Yes.
So that real clear call to action that's actually on the pin graphic is going to do most of the work for you. So whether it's a learn more or, watch now, those like real easy, punchy calls to action that have some movement with it. So like an arrow or whatever it is, that would be my top recommendation. Make sure your graphic is on point.
So I wanted to bring up a comment because one, I love Pat, and she goes, let's see. She goes, this is the one I wanted. Yes, Jeff taught us video pins, and I think a quick video for the pin, and then the call to action is to go to the site and see the complete details. So that was one of the things you really need to know. And Kara was kind of talking about like static, and then using some of those motions that you can do. But, you need to know what kind of pin, like story pins. There's not really a link back, so you've got to be really creative on how to do that and all sorts of things. So know what kind of like content you're putting to the platform, what's going to work best for the call to action.
Right. So this is where you get into understanding what a platform is telling you to do and reading between the lines and doing what's best for your business anyway. So, yes, their story pins are being pushed really hard by Pinterest. They get some amazing impressions right away, but they don't link through. And what I found funny was Pinterest was saying, don't put your URL on any of the pin graphics. I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do that anyway. And it works. So, understand what the foundation best practices are, but make sure that it's working for your business the way you need to. I don't think that I would put up a story pin that didn't have some sort of call to action. So,
question about that, Kara. So did you know it was working because you saw direct traffic come up because people were using that link?
Yes.
Yeah, that's clever. Very clever.
So here's a question from Irene, since we're talking about story pins and the user-generated content. She goes, what do you think about creating story pins using user-generated content testimonials? Will this work, or testimonials only work on Facebook or IG, Instagram?
So this goes back to story pins not having that link out. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, what action do you want them to take? So if you're putting up a testimonial as part of a story pin purely for brand awareness and building that know, like, and trust, that's fine. I don't think you're going to see website traffic from it. So you have to really understand what your purpose is for posting that. If it's you're building know, like, and trust, that's great. I wouldn't spend a ton of time doing anything that doesn't have an easy link to my website and my properties. But it's fun to experiment with for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have a thought on that too. I don't think I'd make a story that was all testimonials, but you could make it part of the story. So here's a video of our product. Here's how it looks. Here's how it works. Here's a testimonial about, from someone who used it, and here's our your follow button comes up. So it might be a good way to get people to follow you on Pinterest, which then they may be more likely to see your other content, which could get more traffic. But really, I would look at it, like Kara said, as more of a way to build that trust factor and awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk about, we've been kind of focused on Pinterest, but let's talk about some of the ways that it's kind of different on Facebook and Instagram. For example, for like Instagram, and I know this is like for a lot of people, it doesn't drive a ton of traffic, but it does do well for like brand awareness, that kind of thing. But the thing is, the traffic it does drive is super qualified. If they're going to your profile and clicking on those links and going that way, then they really, something was attractive to them about you. So what are your thoughts about, when is it time to branch out and, maybe try a piece of content you made on Pinterest, see if it works, or you can repurpose it like you like to do for Instagram? What are your thoughts about the difference of those?
Gosh, there's a lot in there. There's so many places we could go with that. So, first of all, I am always for trying anything new, as long as you have a clear goal and expectations in mind. So doing that spaghetti against the wall approach is never a good idea, as we've established. But if it's the reverse, like you have a pin that's driving a ton of traffic to, let's say, a landing page for an opt-in or a product, if you're e-commerce, that again is an indication of people really like this. I'm going to see how I can repurpose it for other platforms like Instagram or Facebook. So I wouldn't just start with anything. You guys know that I'm extremely data driven.
Right.
So it's not about I'm just going to start Instagram now. I'm going to put some of my time towards Instagram, starting with my best performing content, and see how it goes.
That's a great piece of advice. And I didn't call you a nerd. That was Elisa. I didn't say that you were a data nerd, but anyway.
I'm totally okay with that.
So we do have some news, though. I know we wanted to have a little section here at the end. I know, Elisa, you wanted to bring up some news, so I'll let you go ahead and bring that up, because it's kind of a social media news update that we have.
Yeah, and I want feedback from all of you listening, if you wouldn't mind. I know that this episode was slightly less Pinterest focused than usual, just trying to make our content go further. Do you like that? Or do you want all Pinterest all the time? Tell us what you think. So kind of with that in mind, wanted to share something about TikTok. And I also think, Jeff, if we have time, it would be great to run that formula through somebody's example.
Yeah. Well, get going.
So if we could grab a product or service. Okay, get going. Okay, so TikTok, they are not fooling around when it comes to e-commerce. Mm-hmm. So some kind of like not confirmed rumors, but that Shopify is working with TikTok to be able to allow content creators to have product placements in their TikToks. And that way creators can earn the commissions on those by integrating those products from Shopify. So they've actually been partners since last October. And Shopify merchants can kind of get access to TikTok ad manager features in Shopify's dashboard. So it's really clear that they're investing in this partnership, which is really kind of interesting. And it's rolled out to several countries already. So US, of course, but then France, Spain, Italy, UK, and Germany. So it's already pretty widely available as far as like adding tracking pixels and running ads. So the plan is, the rumor is anyway, that they're going to enable sellers to upload their product catalogs to the platform and allow people to shop on the platform.
That's cool.
And they're not wasting any time getting into e-commerce. I think it's really neat that they're doing this. So I have a really cool article people can go to. I'll just drop it in there.
So I think any competition is good. And the thing about TikTok that I have liked, and I think will help other platforms, is that they are really kind of paying creators like off the bat. One of the things that, you talk about YouTube and like Facebook and all those stuff, they kind of drug their feet a little bit with paying creators. And so with TikTok kind of doing that, hopefully that will drive it to the other platforms. The other cool thing about the Shopify integration, and I know Kara uses, does stuff with her clients, but anything that makes it easy for getting your catalog up on a platform is always good. I mean, that allows you to monetize, your and have those direct links and not having to do like these, link tree kind of wackadoo things, workarounds to get things to work. So integration is always good. So
yeah, and the news for influencers. I mean, if you can get paid for doing product placements in your videos from this back-end dashboard. Super cool. Yeah.
And we're getting towards the end of the show, but I want to make sure you guys, we'll try to run one person through. If you guys have like something you would like us to run through the formula, like, your audience, let us know. We'll try to do that really quickly at the end, but we have a special offer. Elisa, I know that you were going to talk about this upcoming education thing. I know. That's why I'm prompting you.
Thank you for being here.
See, that's why I'm here.
So I even spoke at this online course creator conference. So if this is you and you want to learn more about how to create, market, sell, and like the launch process for a course is vital. There is this course you can get a free ticket to. I spoke about, Pinterest, of course, but there are 35 other really great speakers. You can get a free ticket at bit.ly/ and I didn't make this bit.ly link before you yell at me. It's the number 2 and then all capital letters with no spaces, OCTTW. I think that's, I don't know, online, who knows?
It's craziness, but yeah, we'll just let it go as that. Yeah.
OCTTW.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Jeff, I want to tell you, I stayed up till 10 o'clock at night on a Friday recording that one.
Where to go? I'm sure it's awesome.
Please.
And also, we want to make sure that you guys go check out Kara. If you couldn't tell, she's like super smart about all this stuff. You need to go read that article for sure. I know Elisa has dropped that down below where you can go check that article that we kind of built this whole show on. But make sure you go to karachase.com. Yeah, karachase.com/free. That's CARACHACE.com/free. Make sure you go check her out because she's amazing. So
Thank you.
Bobby has a example. So she says like quilt patterns, and it's at geekybobbin.com. I'm going to bring that up on screen here. But what would you do for quilt patterns? Because we asked for examples.
So I might need a little bit of clarification. Are you selling quilt patterns?
I believe that's what she's doing. Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah. Okay. So behind the scenes, doing like a video time lapse of you creating a pattern, something like that would be absolutely amazing for all 3. You just have to make sure to edit your video properly so they show up in the right way. So you've got the, if you're doing a time-lapse video of you creating a pattern or however you do that, I'm sorry, I don't know the jargon for quilting. Yeah. So I would think of it in terms of you are showing behind the scenes, you are showing expertise, you're potentially showing education, and you're building that know, like, and trust factor. So what you have to understand is your call to action. So on Pinterest, if you're going to do a video pin, where does that video pin go to with that time lapse behind the scenes of you creating a pattern? Does it go towards your free course? Does it go towards a blog about the particular thing that you're doing in the video? Mm-hmm. When you're on Facebook or Instagram, maybe it's you're building community. So if you have a quilting community on Instagram, be like, this is what I'm working on this week. Who else is working on their quilting patterns? Tag them below or let me know. You could do the same thing in Facebook or in Facebook groups. I'm sure there are a bajillion quilting groups in Facebook. And you could share that as again, community building that hopefully links back to your website where you have that somewhere either as a post or a call to action for someone to get on your email list or buy if you have like digital downloads of your patterns or whatever it is. Is that in depth enough?
I think that's good. And I wanted to say we did last month we did 2 trainings on video pins. So make sure you guys go check those out. And make sure when you're creating, like, I thought it was a great idea with the time lapse really sped up of creating that, using that quilting pattern to create a quilt. Make sure that when you come out of the gate, there's action. You don't want to slowly see hands go. I mean, you want to go boom. You maybe show like a jump to the finished product, you know, and then go back and do something. But catch, you got like that really small amount of time, like a couple milliseconds to get them to stop and click. So make sure you're doing that with your videos on Pinterest. So we are out of time. Yeah. Make sure you guys do not forget to go and check out Kara, Chase. Do not forget we have so many links. It's crazy. We'll drop them in. Don't forget about the toolkit. Do not forget about the formula. All the things we have today. And I think we're even going to go on Twitter Spaces after this. If you guys would like to talk with us, you'd have to, and I'm sure Alicia's going to drop in the comment, it's at Jeff C. It's my Twitter handle. That's what we're going to do in the Twitter Spaces. If you'd like to talk about what we talked about today, join us, because it's going to be a fun little chat afterwards. So with that, thank you guys. Thank you, Kara, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, for letting me come in the door and do all the stuff. So
I haven't figured out how to stop you yet.
Yeah, I
but
know.
yeah,
I just kind of barged right in.
If you have a minute, I think like on Twitter Spaces, we're going to kind of reiterate that formula for cross-platform usage. So yeah, if you have a minute,
ask your questions, and it's a lot of fun. So, alrighty, we'll see you guys over there. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.